What is your English level? Are you ready to test your English and find out? Then let me give you an English preposition quiz. In this quiz, I have 20 questions. 5 beginner, 5 intermediate, 5 advanced. What was the last one? Proficiency. 5 proficiency. For each level, I will give you the question with the options. You have some time to choose the correct option, and then I will tell you the answer and I will explain what that phrasal verb means. In this way, you will find out what your level of English is, and you will learn 20 phrasal verbs from beginner to proficiency. Before we start, I want to ask you something. I want you to write down the number of correct answers you have and then share it in the comments down below. Alright, enough talking. Let's start with the beginner level. 5 questions, very easy. Question 1. She is sitting her friend above, next to, under. Next to her friend. It's very easy. It's a preposition of place. So if someone is on your right or on your left, you can say next to. Well, you cannot sit above your friend or under your friend, or maybe you can, but it doesn't make sense. So the correct answer is next to. Moving on to question number 2. The store is the bank. Across from, inside, through. Across from the bank. If there is a bank and there is a street and there is another store on the other side of the street, if you want to talk about where they are across from each other. The store can be inside the bank. I mean, it can, but like, have you ever seen a store inside a bank? And through is a whole different story. I will explain later. Moving on to question number 3. We walked the park, at the park, on the park, through the park. We walked through the park. Now, what is the meaning of through? It means to enter a place from one side and to exit from the other side. So imagine there is a tunnel and you want to go from one side of the tunnel and come out from the other side. This is called going through the tunnel. And the same thing can happen with the park. If you go in from one side and come out from the other side, you just went through the park. Now, we do not walk at the park or on the park. However, we walk in the park. That's another one, but it was not among the options. So the correct option is through the park. Moving on to question number 4. He put his keys pocket. Under his pocket, in his pocket, or on his pocket? In his pocket. Well, if you have something, you put it in your pocket, right? You don't put it under. How can you put that under your pocket? And don't get me started on. You cannot put it on your pocket. It just doesn't stay there. Easy, right? Last question of the beginner level. Here we go. The cat jumped the sofa. On the sofa, onto the sofa, or into the sofa? Onto the sofa. That's the correct answer. But what's the difference between onto and on? Into and in? The difference is, when you say on, you're talking about the position of something. Let's say there is a sofa and there is a cat on the sofa. The cat is sitting there or sleeping there. Where's the cat? It's on the sofa. But we use onto to describe movements. So if the cat is not on the sofa yet, but is moving, we can say the cat is going onto the sofa. So onto for movement, on for place. The same is true for in and into. Oh, look at this. This is my finger. Now I'm moving my finger into my nose. I'm moving it into my nose. Now, where is my finger? It's in my nose position. I'm moving it into my nose. It's in my nose. That's disgusting. But it was not in my nose, it was here. That is it with the beginner level. It was an easy warm-up. Moving on to the next one, which is the intermediate level. Are you ready? Here's question 6. He is responsible the project. On the project, for the project, or with the project? Responsible for the project. The correct preposition of responsible is always for. It means that is your duty. You have to do it. It's your responsibility. You are responsible for it. Look at this example. She is responsible for organizing the event. It's her responsibility. She is responsible for organizing the event. Question 7. She apologized being late, of being late, at being late, for being late. She apologized for being late. The correct preposition of apologize is for. Now, apologize means to say that you're sorry. And we always say apologize for something bad that you may have done. He apologized for forgetting her birthday. He apologized for forgetting her birthday. Oh, sorry, I forgot about your birthday. Question 8. The decision depends several factors. On, in, by. Depend on. The correct preposition of depend is always on. Now, what does it mean? If A depends on B, it means the outcome of A is determined by B and vice versa. These two are linked. They depend on each other. Success depends on hard work. It means the outcome of hard work is success. Question 9. The novel is based a true story. Based from, based with, based on. Based on a true story. If you like watching movies, I'm pretty sure you've heard this phrase before. If a movie is based on a true story, it means something really happened in real life and they made a movie of it. They were inspired by that true event. Similarly, if a movie is based on a book, it means the movie is inspired by the book. So first there was a book, then they decided, let's make a movie. The movie is based on real events. Based on. And the last question of the intermediate level. Are you ready? Let's go. The project was completed. Numerous challenges. Due to, in spite of, instead of. In spite of numerous challenges. Now, read the question carefully. The project was completed, so it was successful. And there were a lot of challenges. So if it was successful and there were a lot of challenges, it was successful in spite of all those challenges. If you say due to, it means because of. Well, look at all these prepositions. Because of, due to, in spite of, responsible for. What is with English? Why do they make all the things so complicated? That's beautiful, isn't it? Anyways, in spite of is used to show contrast. Even though there were a lot of challenges, the project was successful. In spite of. Now, listen up. I've seen a lot of students say in spite and then confuse it with despite and say despite of or in spite. No, in spite of or despite. He succeeded in spite of his injuries. He was injured, but he succeeded in spite of. That's it with the intermediate level. How many correct answers do you have so far? Let's move on to the advanced level and challenge you even more. Question 11. She takes pride her work. She takes pride in her work, at her work, or of her work. She takes pride in her work. Take pride in something means feeling happy and accomplished of your work. You do something very well and you're proud of it. You take pride in that skill you have. For example, he takes pride in his cooking skills. He's a very good chef. He takes pride in his cooking skills. Let's go to question number 2. We were forced to comply the new rules. Comply at, upon, or with. Comply with the new rules. Comply with means to obey a set of rules. So if you comply with the rules, you obey them. Yes, sir. All employees must comply with safety regulations. They must obey the safety rules. Let's move on to the next question. The findings are previous studies. In spite of, in contrast to, in respect to. In contrast to previous studies. Now let's check all the options. In spite of means even though something was true, something else was achieved. But the findings are in spite of previous studies does not make sense. So there were previous studies and now there are new findings. They are not in spite of each other. However, if you had previous findings and now you do something new and then you see, these are new. These are not the same findings we had. You can say the new findings are in contrast to previous studies. For example, in contrast to last year, sales have increased. Last year, our sales were lower. Now they are higher. So in contrast to last year, our sales have increased. In contrast to. Question 14. He remained the impression that everything was fine. He remained on the impression, under the impression, in the impression. Under the impression. Now, if you are under the impression that something is true, you believe that that is true, often mistakenly. So you think something is right, but it might not really be right, and you are mistaken. You are under the impression that that is right. She was under the impression that the meeting was canceled. She thought the meeting was canceled. She believed the meeting was canceled, but was she right? No, there was a meeting and she missed it. She was under the impression. She was believing something mistakenly. And the last question of the advanced level. Now hold on because we still have the proficiency level where I will be challenging you a lot. The company operates international regulations in compliance with, in spite of, or alongside. In compliance with international regulations. But what does it mean? In compliance with regulation, if you are in compliance with something, that means you are acting according to that. Now, when we're talking about rules and regulations, if you are in compliance with the rules and regulations, you are following the rules. You are obeying them. This is usually used for companies. For example, factories must operate in compliance with environmental laws. It means they must obey environmental laws. Done and done. So far we've covered 15 phrasal verbs from beginner to intermediate to advanced. We have 5 more questions and they belong to the proficiency level. Are you ready to be challenged? Let's go. Question 16. His remarks were in accordance company policy. In accordance to, in accordance of, in accordance with. In accordance with. Now, if you do something in accordance with something else, you are doing it according to something else. According to, in accordance with. Just see how they play with all these prepositions. It basically means you are again obeying the laws. You are doing it according to the rules you're given. For example, the decision was made in accordance with company policies. It means the decision was made according to the company policies. It was following the policies that were set by the company. Question 17. She was oblivious the danger around her. Oblivious in, oblivious to, or oblivious with. She was oblivious to the dangers around her. But what does oblivious to something mean? It means unaware of. You are not aware of the dangers around you. You are oblivious to them. It basically means you're not noticing something that exists around you. You're oblivious to it. For example, he was oblivious to the time and missed his flight. He wasn't paying attention to the time. He was oblivious to it. Next question. He spoke length about the implications of the policy. With length, on length, at length. At length. Which means in great detail. If you speak at length about something, it means you discuss it for a long time, often with a lot of attention to details. She spoke at length about her research findings. It means she talked and talked and talked about the findings of her research in great detail. Question 19. She acted in defiance her supervisor's instructions. In defiance of, in defiance with, or in defiance to. In defiance of. If you do something in defiance of something else, that means you are deliberately ignoring that. You're doing this by deliberately not seeing the other thing. You've been given orders and your supervisor has said, hey, you must do this according to these guidelines. And you say, whatever. And then you do it your own way. You are working in defiance of the instructions given by your supervisor. The protest was held in defiance of the government's ban. It means the protest was held, there was a protest in defiance of, without paying attention to, by deliberately ignoring the government's ban. The government said, hey, there should be no protests, but there was a protest. And the last one, I hope you've enjoyed this test as much as I've enjoyed it. His comments were tantamount an admission of guilt. Tantamount from, tantamount to, or tantamount of. Tantamount to. But what does it mean? Tantamount to means equal to. It means something is similar to something else. It's tantamount to it. It's almost the same as the other one. His refusal to answer was tantamount to an admission of guilt. He refused to answer the question. And that alone was very similar as saying, hey, I'm guilty. So it was tantamount to an admission of guilt. All right, time to see how many correct answers you've had. Let me know in the comments. Also, if you want to improve your English and take your English to the next level, I highly recommend checking out the POC English Academy. In this academy, I will teach you grammar, vocabulary, and fluency from beginner to advanced. You will have grammar and vocabulary quizzes, lesson summary PDFs. You can practice speaking and writing using AI tools, and you can enter the community of students where you can find study partners, ask your questions, or join live speaking lessons. And the good news is you can try that for free. So go ahead, click on the link above my head, app.pocenglish.com, go to my website and click Start Free. Register, see the demo lesson for free, and then if you like to join us, subscription fees are from as low as £10 per month. Go ahead and give it a try. And also, if you liked this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and click subscribe. See ya.